In some quiet place inside you, a small child is still waiting for the moment you finally turn around and see them again. They're not loud. They don't scream. They just wait. The way children apprend to wait when the world teaches them that their feelings are too heavy, their needs too much, their softness inconvenient. Maybe you felt it lately. That strange emptiness you can't explain. That quiet sadness that shows up even on good days. That sense that something in you slipped away when you weren't looking. But you didn't lose yourself. You lost the child who held you together. And sometimes, when a memory brushes against your mind, the smell of old books, the sound of distant laughter, the whisper of rain against a window, something stirs inside you, something familiar, something you used to be. Maybe you ignore it. Maybe you think it's just nostalgia, but it's not. It's the small version of you, knocking softly. Imagine them for a moment, not as a symbol, not as a concept, but as a real child, with real eyes, real fears, real hopes. They're sitting on the edge of a bed that's too big for them, swinging their legs, trying to pretend they're fine. There's a toy beside them, maybe a stuffed animal with worn-out fur, maybe a little car missing a wheel, maybe a doll whose hair has been combed too many times. Whatever it is, it's something they held on to because they didn't have many things that felt safe. And when they look up, they look at you the way children look at people they trust, even when they shouldn't have had to trust people who weren't there for them. Do you remember that version of you? The one who tried so hard to be good? The one who stayed quiet so the adults wouldn't get upset? The one who learned early how to disappear when things became too heavy? Perhaps you spent years believing you outgrew that child, that you became stronger, more independent, more adult. But the truth is quieter and more human. You became who you needed to be to survive. And in the process, you lost the child who once held everything together, not because they were weak, but because they were exhausted. Sometimes adults forget that children break silently. They don't make speeches about their pain. They don't announce their disappointments. They just adapt and adapt and adapt, until adapting becomes their personality. Maybe that's why you feel so tired now. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, the other kind. The kind that sits in your bones like a memory of all the times you had to be stronger than you actually were. It's strange, isn't it? How a child can carry weights that would crush an adult, and still smile like nothing happened. You didn't lose yourself. You lost them. The child who once made you believe in simple things, soft things, beautiful things. The child who cried in silence so no one would be bothered. The child who held secrets that were too big for their small hands. And somehow, even after all that, they still believed in you. Picture them again. They're older now, not in years, but in ache. Their small fingers are clenched around a memory. Maybe a drawing no one ever praised. Or a little note they wrote to themselves just to feel less alone. The paper is wrinkled, edges bent, but it's still there. Still held tight. Maybe you've forgotten that drawing, but they haven't. They kept everything you threw away because they knew one day you would need it. A sense of wonder, a sense of belonging, a sense of being allowed to exist without earning your place. Deep down, you've been searching for those pieces, not in books, not in achievements, not in relationships, but in the quiet moments when you finally slow down and notice that something inside you feels hollow, like a room that hasn't been visited in years. That room is theirs, and you once lived there too. Sometimes it's dimly lit, the air heavy with dust, the kind that settles when a door stays closed for too long. In the corner sits a toy chest, half open, filled with things you once loved, but stopped touching the day you realized love wasn't always safe. And on the floor, there's a small light, a soft glow, like the kind that used to come from a nightstand lamp. The type of light that made the darkness feel like a friend instead of a threat. Your child self is sitting right beside that light. They're not angry, they're not resentful. Children don't know how to hold grudges, they only know how to hold hope. And they've been holding hope for you for a very, very long time. Maybe that's why you feel them sometimes. When you get overwhelmed, when you feel abandoned, when you freeze instead of speaking, when you apologize for simply existing, when you carry guilt for things that were never your fault. It's not immaturity. It's not weakness. It's a small voice whispering, "Are you coming back for me?" Because somewhere along the way, the world made you believe that growing up meant leaving that child behind. But growth doesn't mean abandonment. It means returning. Returning to the part of you that knew how to feel without shame, how to ask without fear, how to trust without calculating the cost, how to love without first checking if it was safe. What if you paused right now, and instead of searching for the version of yourself you're supposed to be, you searched for the child you used to be? What would you find? A softness you miss, a curiosity you buried, a tenderness the world convinced you was weakness. Or maybe you'd find that small heartbeat inside your chest, the one you feel when a song from your childhood plays, or when you walk past a playground, or when the sky smells like rain. Maybe you'd find proof that they never truly left. You just stopped listening. But listen now. Do you notice it? That tiny warmth rising in you? That ache that feels like remembering? That's them. That's the child you lost. The child who kept you whole when no one else did. The child who held your world together with fragile hands and a heart too pure for the burdens placed upon it. They're not asking for much. Just for you to open the door. Just for you to sit beside them. Just for you to acknowledge that you see them again. Because healing doesn't begin when you fix yourself. Healing begins the moment you take that small hand in yours and whisper, "I didn't forget you. I just didn't know how to come back. But I'm here now." And for the first time in years, you feel something shift, something loosen, something soften. It's not a miracle. It's not a transformation. It's simply the truth. You were never broken. You were just looking for the child who once held you together. And they've been waiting for you all along. Somewhere inside you, there is a door that's been half open for years. Not fully closed, not fully welcoming, just waiting. A door that leads back to a place you once knew by heart, even if now it feels distant, like a dream slipping away the moment you try to remember it. If you stand in front of that door long enough, you might notice something strange. It doesn't creak when it moves. It doesn't protest. It simply breathes, as if it has been expecting your return. As if it always knew that one day, you'd stop running long enough to look back. The hallway leading to it is dim. Not dark, just dim. The way light looks when it's filtered through old curtains that no one ever bothered to open. The air carries the scent of time, soft and familiar. And if you listen closely, you can hear the faint echo of something. Maybe laughter, maybe footsteps, maybe the soft hum of a world where you once felt safe enough to imagine anything. When you touch the door, it doesn't feel cold. It feels warm, like a memory pressed gently against your skin. And for a moment you hesitate, not because you don't want to enter, but because part of you is afraid of what you'll find. What if the room is empty? What if the child isn't there anymore? What if you truly did lose them? But you know that's not true, don't you? Some part of you feels it. That tiny pull in your chest when something reminds you of who you used to be before life became heavy, before survival became a habit, before silence became your shield. So you go in. The door swings open quietly, revealing a room that looks frozen in time. It's small, with walls the color of faded sunlight. A window lets in a soft, trembling glow, the kind of light that used to make the dust dance in the air like tiny stars when you were little. The floor creaks, softly, almost affectionately, under your steps, like it remembers the weight of your childhood feet. It's not a perfect room. The wallpaper is peeling in one corner. A toy sits abandoned on the rug. A little chair is tucked under a small wooden table covered with drawings, scribbles, rainbows, shapes that only a child's imagination can explain. But that imperfection, that's what makes it real. Children don't live in flawless spaces. They live in places where things get worn out, where crayons break, where toys lose pieces but still matter. They live in rooms where the world is far too big outside the door, And this small sanctuary becomes everything. And somewhere inside this room, quiet, patient, almost shy, is the child you've been missing. They are sitting on the floor, legs crossed, back slightly hunched the way children sit when they're trying not to take up too much space. They're holding something in their hands, maybe a drawing, maybe a broken toy, maybe nothing at all, but they're holding it gently, the way children hold anything that means something. When they lift their head and see you, something flickers in their eyes. Recognition, relief, a cautious kind of hope. Not the wild, explosive hope of fairy tales. The quiet kind, the kind that whispers instead of shouting. The kind that says, "Is it really you?" They don't move right away. They just watch you. Because children who learned the world too early don't rush toward people, even people they love. They wait to see if it's safe, if you'll stay, if you'll disappear like others did. You step closer, and the air shifts, not dramatically, but tenderly, like the room has been holding its breath and finally exhales. Their small fingers trace the edge of the drawing in their lap. The paper is wrinkled, its colors faded. It's something they once made for someone who never noticed, or never stayed long enough to understand what it meant. You kneel down in front of them. For a moment, neither of you speaks. Silence fills the space, but not the heavy kind, the gentle kind, the kind soft enough to hold a child without frightening them. And slowly, cautiously, they slide the drawing toward you. Not as an offering, not as a gift, but as a question. Do you remember me? Your chest tightens, not with guilt, not with regret, but with something deeper. The ache of familiarity. The ache of realizing how long you've been searching for this room without even knowing its name. You pick up the drawing. A house, a sun, two figures holding hands, a small heart in the corner. It's simple. It's clumsy. It's beautiful. It's you. And suddenly you understand. This room, this child, this moment, they aren't just memories. They are the parts of you that never stopped waiting for a place to belong. You sit beside them on the floor. The rug is soft beneath you, threaded with stories you forgot, but they didn't. The air feels warmer now, as if the light itself recognizes that something important is happening. The child leans slightly toward you. Not fully, just enough to show they trust you a little. Enough to show they believe you won't vanish this time. Their voice is tiny when it finally appears. You were gone for so long, and your heart breaks. Not violently, but tenderly. The way ice cracks when spring begins. You want to explain. You want to apologize. You want to tell them about the years you spent trying to be strong, trying to survive, trying to outrun the things that hurt. But adults use too many words. Children only need the truth. So you place your hand on the floor, palm open, close enough for them to take it when they're ready. You don't rush. You don't force. You simply wait, the way they waited for you. Eventually, slowly, their hand finds yours. It's small, warm, fragile, real. And the moment their fingers curl around yours, something inside the room changes. The light grows softer. The air grows safer. The silence grows deeper in the best possible way. You're not remembering a room. You're remembering yourself. The part of you that still believes in gentle mornings, in quiet afternoons, in love that doesn't demand anything in return. The child scoots a little closer, resting their head lightly against your arm. The kind of closeness you don't notice until it's there, and once it's there, you wonder how you ever lived without it. They whisper again, softer now. "I thought you forgot me." And your voice, trembling, honest, murmurs back, "I never forgot. I just didn't know how to find the way back." The child nods as if they understand, because children always understand more than we give them credit for. They don't need explanations. They only need presence, warmth, a sense that someone finally sees them. You look around the room, the old toys, the worn-out chair, the drawing still in your hand, the light from the window turning a little golden now. the way light does in the late afternoon when the world quiets down. This room isn't just a memory. It's a mirror, a doorway, a reminder. You didn't lose yourself. You lost the path back to the child who kept you alive in ways you didn't realize. And now, sitting here on the floor holding their hand, you feel the truth settle gently into your bones. You're finding your way home. Not all at once, not dramatically, but breath by breath, moment by moment, hand in hand with the child who never stopped waiting for you to return. And for the first time in a very long time, you don't feel lost. You feel found. The room grows quieter as you sit there with the child, your fingers gently wrapped around theirs. For a long moment, neither of you speaks. The silence isn't empty. It's full. Full of everything that was never said. Everything you carried alone. Everything this small version of you held without ever knowing how heavy it really was. You glance at them, the way their shoulders curl inward, the way their little hands stay half-tensed, as if ready to let go at the slightest sign that you might pull away. And it hits you with a kind of ache that has no sharp edges, only deep, slow gravity. This child carried more than any child should have. And somehow, you've been carrying it too. In your tiredness, in your self-doubt, in the way your chest tightens when you feel someone might leave, in the way you apologize just for existing. For a brief moment, the child shifts closer to you, their head lightly touching your arm again. And that touch, so small, so quiet, shakes something loose inside you. Something old. Something you've been walking with for years, without realizing its weight. You look around the room, at the tiny chair, the worn-out rug, the little table with drawings spread across it like fragments of a story no one ever listened to. And you begin to understand. This room isn't just a memory. It's a map of how you learned to survive. The child leans away just enough to look at you directly. Their eyes don't accuse you. They don't blame you. They simply hold the truth children carry when they're forced to grow up too fast. You got so busy, they whisper, trying not to feel everything. The words land softly, but they land deep. And suddenly you see it, not as a concept, but as a living, breathing reality. The exhaustion you feel in your adult life isn't laziness. It isn't weakness. It isn't a lack of discipline or motivation. It's grief. Grief for all the moments you had to choke back your own feelings to keep the peace. Grief for all the times you were small and scared and had no one to tell. Grief for all the places in you that were never touched with kindness, never held with gentleness, never soothed when they needed it most. You didn't grow up empty. You grew up full of unsaid things. And those quiet burdens never simply disappear. They surface as adult habits that feel unexplainable. The way you overthink every decision. The way you freeze when conflict appears. The way you assume you're a burden even when no one has said that. The way you try to be perfect so no one can be disappointed in you. The way you apologize even when you've done nothing wrong. The way you love others more easily than you love yourself. None of this began in adulthood. It began here, in this room, beside this child, before you had the words to understand what was happening. You feel the child tug lightly on your sleeve. They told me I had to be strong, they whisper. And suddenly the air in the room thickens, as if the walls themselves remember those moments, the ones you tucked away, the ones you survived by becoming smaller, quieter, easier to handle. You nod gently. I know. But the child shakes their head. No, you don't know how much it hurt. Their voice cracks on the last word, so soft it almost disappears. And something inside you, something deep and old, trembles with recognition. This isn't just the child speaking. This is every moment of loneliness you swallowed. Every fear you hid. Every time you wanted someone to notice, but no one did. You feel your own breath catch. I didn't know. You whisper back. I'm so sorry. You shouldn't have gone through any of that alone. The child looks down at their hands. Their little fingers twist around themselves, fidgeting in that familiar way, the same way you still do when you're anxious. It's strange seeing it from the outside. strange and heartbreaking. I tried to be good, they mumble. You hear the weight behind the words, the effort, the desperation, the impossible expectations placed on someone who was still learning how to exist. I know you did, you whisper. You tried so hard. Their chin trembles. A single tear appears, quiet, unannounced, the way childhood tears often were, and it runs down their cheek with the silent dignity of someone who learned early that crying didn't bring anyone closer. You feel your own eyes burn, not with pity, not with sadness, with love. A love you didn't know you were missing. A love you didn't know you needed to offer, not outward, but inward. You shift a little closer, your knee touching theirs. The child notices but doesn't pull away. Do you know why you're so tired now? You ask softly. Not because you want to teach them something, but because saying it out loud feels like opening a window in a long closed room. Because I carried too much, they whisper. You shake your head. Because you're still carrying it. Their breath catches. Not in fear, in recognition. You take their small hands in yours. Warm, fragile, still trembling. You didn't just grow up. You continue quietly. You grew up while holding everything you were too little to understand. And when you became an adult, you didn't put it down. The child blinks slowly, absorbing the words the way children absorb truth. Not through logic, but through feeling. They speak again, barely audible. I thought if I let go, no one would take care of it. You close your eyes for a moment. Those words hit harder than anything else. Because they're right. Back then, there really wasn't anyone else. Back then, you really did have to hold it all. Back then, you had no choice. When you open your eyes, the room looks different somehow. Not lighter, but clearer. As if seeing the truth makes everything settle into place. You don't have to carry it alone anymore. You whisper. The child frowns slightly, confused. But who will help me? Your answer comes without hesitation, quiet, steady, certain. I will. The child looks up at you again, and the look in their eyes is almost too much to bear. A mixture of disbelief, longing, and something softer. Something like hope. You'll stay? They ask. This time, your voice comes from a deeper place than your throat. From your ribs, your spine, your very center. Yes, I'll stay. I'm not leaving you again. And the moment you say it, the room reacts, not dramatically, but subtly. The light shifts a little warmer. The air softens. The dust hanging in the sunlight shimmers like tiny floating stars. Then the child does something they haven't done throughout this entire journey. They move, not cautiously, not hesitantly. They move with trust. They crawl into your arms, small hands clutching your shirt, tiny face pressing against your chest like they've been waiting a lifetime for this kind of safety. And you wrap your arms around them, not tightly, but securely. The way someone should have held you. The way someone should have stayed. The way someone should have whispered, "You don't have to be strong alone." The child's breathing slows. Their body softens. And for a moment, you feel the weight they've carried ease, just a little, just enough for them to rest. This is the moment you understand something profound. Your adult exhaustion isn't failure. It's the echo of a child who carried the world alone. It's the body remembering everything the mind forgot. It's the heart holding on to weight that was never yours to carry. As the child rests against you, their voice muffled but clear, they whisper, "Thank you. I didn't know how much I needed you." You close your eyes, holding them gently, and whisper back, "I didn't know how much I needed you either." And in that quiet room, with the child in your arms and the past finally exhaling, you realize maybe you were never falling apart. Maybe you were just finally feeling the weight of everything you survived. And maybe, just maybe, this is the beginning of putting it down, together. The child rests against you for a long time, their small body rising and falling with each breath. Breaths far too steady for someone who carried so many storms. You feel the warmth of them, the softness, the fragility. and something inside you loosens in a way you didn't know it could. Not a dramatic release, not a rush, just a slow, gentle untying of knots you've lived with for years. Your hand moves gently over their back, not to comfort them, but because the motion feels natural, instinctive, and in that quiet, a strange clarity emerges. You didn't become distant or numb or cautious by accident. You became that way because this child inside you had to protect themselves. And somewhere along the road to adulthood, their survival strategies became your personality. When the child finally shifts, sitting upright again, they don't let go of your hand. Their small fingers wrap around yours tightly, as if afraid that if they loosen even a little, you'll disappear back into the world that once pulled you away. Their eyes search your face, not for answers, for recognition. Sometimes, they whisper, I felt like I was screaming, but no one heard me. The truth of that sinks into your chest like a stone sinking to the bottom of a lake. Slowly, heavily, inevitably, you take a breath, steady and slow. I hear you now, you say softly. The child nods, but you can see the lingering fear in their gaze. The kind of fear that doesn't come from monsters under the bed, but from the monsters silence can create. The monsters that grow inside children who learn early that their feelings are too loud, their needs too big, their presence too fragile. They speak again, voice trembling. I tried to be brave, but every time something scared me, I had to pretend it didn't. And just like that, the room shifts. It isn't darker, just deeper, more honest. A quiet wind, or maybe just a memory of wind, brushes through the room, and the child's confession hangs in the air like a tiny, shaking truth. You know that feeling. You know it intimately. You've lived it in your adult moments of fear disguised as composure. In the way you hold yourself together even when your hands shake. In the way you say, I'm fine, even when something inside you is collapsing quietly. You take the child's hand fully now, both of your hands enclosing theirs. You didn't have to pretend, you whisper. They look up at you slowly, but no one noticed. No one asked. A long silence stretches between you, the kind that reveals more than words ever could. You feel it in your bones, in your memories, in the adult you became because the child had to hide their fears so early. You brush a strand of hair from their forehead and ask softly, what scared you the most? They hesitate. Not because they don't know, but because they're not sure if they're allowed to say it out loud. Finally, with a small breath, they whisper that no one would stay, that everyone would leave, and that if I showed how scared I was, I would lose even more. The ache that rises in you isn't just emotional, it's physical. A tightness in your throat, a heaviness in your chest, a trembling in your hands. Because that fear, that ancient fear, echoes through every part of your adult life. The fear of abandonment, disguised as independence. The fear of rejection, disguised as overthinking. The fear of not being enough, disguised as perfectionism. The fear of being too much, disguised as silence. You finally understand why you flinch at disappointment. Why you pull away when someone gets too close. Why you expect people to vanish. Why you find yourself apologizing just for being human. It wasn't you. It was them, the child. The one who learned too early that love wasn't a guarantee. You cup their cheek gently, your thumb brushing the drying trail of a tear. You were never hard to love, you say quietly. You were just trying to survive. Their breath shudders. And you didn't do anything wrong, you add. The child's lips tremble, and they lean forward, pressing their forehead to your chest again. A small gesture with the weight of an entire childhood. Their voice is muffled, fragile. I didn't want to make anyone upset, so I stayed quiet, and small, and invisible. And suddenly, pieces of your adult self fall into place. The way you shrink in conversations, the way you second-guess your worth, the way you hold back your truth until it hurts. You learned invisibility as a language. You learned silence as protection. You learned self-erasure as survival. Not because you wanted to, but because no one taught you that you were allowed to take up space. You pull the child gently away so you can look into their eyes. Those eyes that still hold stories you've spent years trying not to remember. You don't have to disappear anymore, you whisper. You don't have to be small for me. I can handle your feelings now. The child studies your face carefully, not searching for lies. Children know the difference, but searching for consistency. And after a moment, a soft, fragile question escapes their lips. Are you sure? The vulnerability in those 3 words is enough to shatter something inside you, but it also rebuilds something. You nod. I'm sure. Your voice is steady, warm, unwavering. I want to know what you feel. I want to hear everything. I want you to exist freely. Their eyes widen slightly, as if the concept itself is too big to hold. You take their hands, lifting them gently. Show me, you whisper. Show me what hurt. The child hesitates, their gaze drifting around the room. Their eyes pause on the toy chest, on the little bed, on the drawings scattered across the table. And slowly, their shoulders begin to tense. Without a word, they walk to the corner of the room, the shadowed part, the part you didn't notice before. They crouch down and pull out a small box like it contains the universe. When they bring it to you, their hands shake slightly. You sit together on the floor, and the child opens the box. Inside, there are tiny fragments of memories. A broken crayon, a button from a shirt you loved, a tear-stained scrap of paper with jagged child handwriting, a small piece of string tied into a knot, a pebble, a folded note. They pick up the string first. This, they whisper, was the knot I kept in my pocket so I wouldn't cry. You feel something collapse quietly inside you. They place it down and pick up the button. This fell off the day everything felt too loud and no one noticed I was sad. Then the crayon. This broke when I tried to draw something happy and I couldn't. Their voice trembles. Piece by piece they show you their hidden hurts, the kind no one ever asked about, the kind no one ever soothed. And as they speak, you feel something shift, not just in the room but in you. A realization rising like a small flame. These weren't just childhood pains. They became adult patterns. Patterns you blamed yourself for, never realizing where they began. When the child finally reaches the bottom of the box, they lift the folded note with both hands, as if it's fragile. They open it slowly, revealing a single sentence written in uneven, shaky letters. I hope one day someone stays. Your breath breaks, not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet, tender fracture in your chest. You take the note gently from their hands, holding it with the kind of care someone should have given you long ago. And then you lift their chin so they can see your face clearly. I'm here, you whisper. I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere. The child's eyes flood, not with fear this time, but with relief. Deep, long-awaited, bone-deep relief. For the first time, their shoulders relax. For the first time, they breathe fully. For the first time, they let themselves believe you. And as you hold them, as the room softens around you, as the weight of years begins to lift in gentle, almost invisible ways, you realize something simple and profoundly true. Your self-doubt wasn't born in adulthood. Your self-sacrifice wasn't a flaw. Your silence wasn't a choice. They were all echoes of a child who needed to be seen. And now, finally, they are. You hold them close, and quietly, in the softest voice you've ever used, you whisper, "You're not invisible anymore." The child sits beside you, the empty box now resting quietly on the floor, its contents spread like pieces of a forgotten story finally spoken aloud. The room feels different now, not because anything has changed physically, but because the truth has been given air. And truth, once spoken, rearranges the space it lives in. The child's breathing is slower, steadier, but there's a flicker of uncertainty in their eyes, as if now that they've shown you everything, they don't know what comes next. As if a part of them is waiting for the familiar pattern, for someone to get overwhelmed, to pull away, to disappear. You notice it. You feel it. That protective shrinking, the bracing for disappointment, the instinct to prepare for something to go wrong. So you shift closer, closing the small space between you, making sure your presence is unmistakably here, unmistakably steady. The child glances up, cautious but hopeful. "What happens now?" they whisper. There's no fear in the question, only vulnerability. The kind of vulnerability that children only show when they've decided to trust. The kind of vulnerability that adults forget how to speak. You take a slow breath, not because you need to think, but because this moment deserves slowness. "Now," you say softly, "we learn to carry things together." The child blinks, as if the idea itself feels too large. "Together, together," you repeat, gently threading your fingers through theirs. The child looks down at your joined hands, running their thumb lightly over your knuckles, as if memorizing the feeling, as if testing whether this connection is real. And then something in their expression softens, not the kind of softness that comes from relief, but the kind that comes from being seen in a way they've never been seen before. "You're not upset that I showed you everything?" they ask timidly. You shake your head, and your voice comes out warm, grounded, sure. "No. I'm grateful you trusted me." The child exhales a breath they've been holding for years, maybe for decades. A breath you've felt every time your throat tightened around words you couldn't say. A breath you've swallowed every time you wanted comfort but didn't know how to ask. Their voice is small when they speak again. "I didn't want to be a burden." Your heart breaks a little, quietly, gently, because you know how early that belief took root, how deeply it settled into you, shaping everything you've done to make yourself easier to love, easier to keep, easier to handle. "You were never a burden," you say, and you mean it with a depth that echoes through the room. The child studies you, their eyes searching for cracks, for signs that you'll take the words back. But you don't. You let the truth settle between you like a soft blanket. Slowly, the child leans against you again, but this time, it's different. Not cautious, not testing, not holding their breath. This time, it's trust. Real trust. The kind built from being seen, heard, held. You wrap your arm around them, your hand resting gently on their small shoulder, and the child sighs. That tiny, trembling sound children make only when they finally feel safe enough to let their body loosen. "You were tired, weren't you?" you murmur. The child nods without lifting their head. "I was tired all the time," they whisper. "But I didn't think anyone would help." And there it is, the oldest wound of all. Not the fear, not the silence, not the expectations, the loneliness. The loneliness of carrying feelings too big for small hands. The loneliness of pretending you were fine so no one would worry. The loneliness of growing up surrounded by people who didn't know how to see you. The loneliness of learning to comfort yourself because no one came when you needed them. That loneliness didn't disappear in adulthood. It just changed shape. It became overthinking. It became the urge to isolate. It became the belief that you have to handle everything alone. It became the exhaustion that no amount of sleep ever fixes. You brush the child's hair back gently. "You're not alone anymore," you say quietly. "You don't have to be strong by yourself." The child looks up, eyes glistening with a question you've asked in 100 adult moments when life felt too heavy. "Are you really staying?" And this time you don't just nod. You cup their small face in both hands, your thumbs resting softly on their cheeks. "I'm staying," you say, slow and deliberate. "For good. You don't ever have to face anything alone again." The child's face crumples in a wave of relief so pure, so raw, that it sends a tremor through your own chest. Not sadness, something deeper, something sacred. They throw their arms around your neck, clinging with the kind of desperate love children hide from the world, but can't hide from the truth. You hold them now without hesitation, without fear, without distance. And in that embrace, something in you begins to shift. Not dramatically. Healing rarely is. But subtly, like snow melting under the first hint of spring. You feel it in your breath, in your shoulders, in the slow unclenching of places inside you that have been tight since childhood. After a while, the child pulls back, wiping their eyes with the back of their hand. They look around the room, then back at you. "Can I ask you something?" they say. You nod. "Anything." Their voice trembles, but not from fear, from hope. "What if I'm still scared sometimes?" You smile gently, brushing a tear from their cheek with your thumb. "Then we'll be scared together." The child stares at you, trying to absorb the words, testing their shape, their meaning, their possibility. "Together," they repeat softly, as if tasting the word for the first time in their life. You nod again, and the child reaches for your hand, gripping it with renewed certainty. You notice the room feels warmer now. The shadows aren't as sharp. The light through the window has softened into a golden glow, the kind that only appears at the end of long, honest afternoons. The child takes a deep breath, a deep, full, human breath, and their shoulders relax. "Do you want to see something?" they ask suddenly. You nod, and they lead you to the small wooden table covered in old drawings. They sift through them carefully, as if each one holds a piece of their heart. Finally, they lift a tiny, torn page, a drawing you didn't notice before. It's simple. A figure standing alone in the middle of a blank space. No sun, no house, no colors. Just a lonely outline of someone waiting. The child holds the drawing out to you. "This is how I felt," they say quietly. "Like I was always waiting for someone who didn't come." You take the drawing gently, and with a voice that feels like truth made warm, you whisper, "I'm here now. You don't have to wait anymore." The child nods, and you see something you've been longing for without knowing. Their shoulders lift, then settle, as if releasing a weight they carried for too long. Then you do something simple, something small, but something that matters. You kneel beside the little table, pick up a crayon, a new one, unbroken, and offer it to them. "Draw something with me," you say. "Something new." The child hesitates, not from fear but from wonder. And then slowly, they nod. They sit beside you, their small hand resting on your arm as they choose a color. For the first time, the blank page isn't frightening. For the first time, they're not drawing alone. For the first time, they're not waiting for someone to show up. They have you. You're here. And as the crayon touches the paper, as the first color appears, the room grows brighter. Not because the sun has changed, but because you have. Healing doesn't look like fireworks or revelations. It looks like this: a small child, a blank page, a gentle presence by their side, a beginning that doesn't erase the past, but finally lets it rest. And in that soft, sacred moment, you realize you didn't lose yourself. You didn't fail. You didn't break. You were simply trying to live without the part of you that needed you most. Now, you're together again, and everything, absolutely everything, begins to change. In the quiet after everything, you find yourself sitting beside the child, not in the old room anymore, not in a memory, but somewhere softer, somewhere that feels like the inside of your own chest. The child isn't clinging now. They're simply there, present, steady, belonging, and you realize something gentle and undeniable. This was never about becoming someone new. It was about returning to the person you were before life taught you to hide. You look at the child, calmer now, breathing evenly, eyes no longer filled with fear, but with something like trust. And you feel a warmth rise inside you, a quiet truth, a soft reunion. For so long, you believed you lost yourself, but you didn't. You lost the small, brave, hopeful child who held everything together when the world felt too big. And now, piece by piece, you've found them again. You found the part of you that still knows how to feel, how to hope, how to rest, how to be held, even if the one doing the holding is you. And maybe that's what healing really is. Not erasing the past, not pretending you were never hurt, but finally offering the child inside you the safety they waited a lifetime for. So before you go, pause. Place a hand gently over your chest. Feel the soft, steady heartbeat beneath your palm. Ask yourself, what would my inner child say if they could speak right now? What have I been carrying that no longer belongs only to me? What part of me is ready, truly ready, to be seen again? Let these questions sit with you, not as tasks, not as pressure, just as small invitations to return home to yourself over and over as many times as you need. And if this journey touched something inside you, if it brought a little warmth, a little clarity, a little softness where there used to be ache, I invite you gently to support this work. A super thanks helps this channel continue creating stories that heal and hold people who never learned to be held. And if you'd like more moments like this, more quiet reunions with parts of yourself you thought were gone, subscribe, my friend. You're welcome here. Your story is safe here. And tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? I'd love to know where this little moment of healing reached you.